Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Ken Moore and Devin both said they wanted to view it. Devin works on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Isn't that right, Steve? For some
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, that's why he can't go to Burton's or any of this stuff and attend any of our meetings.
So while we're waiting for people to join, I thought we might enjoy the view.
Ooh,
And one.
that's great stuff.
Quite a week, huh?
Man,
I don't know which one's my favorite.
I know, it's just all so good.
You know, the upper right one was the one that was used in A Wonderful Life.
Yes, I saw that on Facebook. Someone showed a comparison. I like the ones of the I forgot the name of this nebula, planetary nebula. Was it the Helix? No.
Or the southern.
I don't remember the name of it, but the two in the upper left, because they kind of show, differences in these different wavelength ranges.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Certainly cool.
We know which one's JWT because of the spikes. that's they have the spikes everywhere, don't they?
And they have 6 instead of, well, actually they have 8 instead of Hubble, which had 4. I actually read an interesting article about why there are 8 spikes.
Oh, that's the kind of article I'd like to read.
I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, okay.
But 6 come from the hexagonal shaped mirror.
Okay.
And then because the struts here, there are 3 struts, you get 6 more, but they designed it so that 4 of those 6 overlap the previous 6. So you get 6, and then you can kind of see 2 more that go horizontal.
I see.
So those 2 are from the struts, but the other 4 overlap the 6 coming from the mirror shape.
That's cool.
That is fascinating.
Well, that's a good topic for astrophotographers.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Hey, Alan.
All right. Well, I think we wanted to talk about color imaging today with color cameras. And I know Meryl had said a good place to start would be sort of the equipment setup.
Well, yeah, I was looking. I mean, I started using one, and I was hoping to hear from Brent.
There's Brent right here.
Yeah, I know he was on. Well, there he is, right in the middle. Just kind of. I mean, I have my procedure now. I've been using it for a few weeks, but I'd like to hear how do you choose and the settings and etc. If I'm the only one, I can go offline to do this.
Yeah, I haven't done anything with PixInsight, so I can talk about what I've done from like a Photoshop perspective, but I can't speak to it from a PixInsight perspective.
No, just the imaging part of it first.
Yeah, just the camera setup itself.
Yeah, so I haven't used mine now in probably about 6 months because I've been maybe a little less than that. But yeah, I've been using ASI 071 MC as my camera. And then basically it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you capture it the same way as you would on any other one, except instead of having the multiple colors, obviously you're just getting the one RGB image at a time. And then I've only ever used 2 filters. I've got a regular light pollution filter that I use for it, and then I've got the Optilong L Enhance filter that kind of focuses on those wavelengths. And then, yeah, depending on the camera, so like with ASI, basically all I have to plan for is the gain and the exposure time. And typically what I have done in the past has just been like a gain of 200. And then I think for broadband, I do about 180 seconds per exposure. And for narrowband, or with my L enhance, I do probably 300 to 500 seconds, somewhere in that range of exposure. And that's the extent of what I really do from a capture perspective.
One thing, just part of my discovery of this thing is using sharp cap. And there is a procedure that you can take your camera and put it on a white background, a white source, and then you do the image analysis. You get the charts that come with your manual. But this actually does the full analysis of both the lights and the darks, and then you can click on the tools for the histogram and settings.
He beats Jane Appleton.
Okay.
And when they say opposites attract, this really was the ultimate example.
Somebody needs to mute their phone, their screen.
It's taken care of. We're fine.
Okay. So it says, has anybody else tried sharp cap?
Never.
What is Sharp Cap? Can you explain it to me?
Well, it's a program that's it's some British guy that's good in astrophotography that you can, it's like $8 or something. It's really cheap. You can get the free version. Some of the features you have to pay that very minimal fee. But I thought it was kind of cool. It took mine, and the light source you use, I can post a video that's a short video that people want to watch if you care about color camera. Actually, any CMOS camera, actually not just color, but a CMOS camera, and we'll answer Brent's questions around exposure time and the gain and offset for the specific image you're taking. So it's kind of a neat, simple process, but it probably comes out to the same answers that Brent's already using. But
Actually, I'll
So
do.
you take a picture and in Sharp Cap and it analyzes it, kind of thing.
I missed the very
What it
first
says.
part. I
Oh.
missed the first part of what you said there, Alan.
Oh, sorry. I just said, so you have the Sharp Cap open and you take a picture in Sharp Cap and then it does an analysis of the light frame or the dark frame, whichever you're doing.
Well, you first do the analysis of your camera, and the way this person did it, they took an iPad and got a real dim white background, and that's kind of what you think about using for flats.
For a flat. Yeah.
And then once you do that and part of the analysis, then you put the lens cap on, and then you do the darks, and then it has, creates the curves, and it gives you the true full well capacity as well as everything else. But then you do the histogram on that by taking it, put your camera back on the telescope, and it looks at the sky values, and it will tell you the optimum, like I said, gain and offset exposure length for what you want to accomplish. So, and it's the other question I would have for Brent maybe is readout times. What's normal? What would you say was normal for a CMOS? Mine are very
By readout time, is that exposure time?
no. Once you expose, then it proceeds to collect all the electrons and then downloads them. Nope, not a factor for you.
Or not something I've ever had any consideration for. So
You're just asking how good is the camera at sending the information to
How fast,
the computer?
when I take an image, it takes, if I do full frame, 120 megabytes, it takes about 10 seconds to read it. It's an instant download from the camera to the computer, but it apparently collects the data and then downloads.
Right.
It just seemed 10 seconds is quite a long time, but when you're doing image, if you're doing a 2-minute image and you lose 10 seconds every time.
So
anybody
so
else
it
had-
can't, okay. So it can't take the second image before the first image downloads to the computer.
No,
Okay.
So I know mine, and I haven't really given any thought to it. So I'm kind of thinking back. I know it does take a couple seconds to do that, but I know my dithering is occurring at the same time. So I don't necessarily know that I'm losing much time when that's happening, because they're happening kind of simultaneously. But 10 seconds seems like a lot. I would say on mine, it's probably closer to 2 to 3, but not something that I've ever measured. But I know it takes a little bit of time, but I think I would notice if it were upwards of 10 seconds.
yeah,
I didn't experience that one.
Well, your megapixels are probably double our 071, maybe triple.
Yeah,
when
that's
I-
also true.
when I take I can take half frames, part of and it's much faster as you would expect. But 2 to 3 seconds would be nice. 10 seconds is a long time. I'm just curious if anybody else had any experience with it. And I think it's characteristic of CMOS cameras.
But I mean, your exposures are so long anyways, it's really not an issue when you're going through a session. Am I wrong about that?
Well, except when you plan an hour, if you plan say, hours worth of imaging at 2 minutes, you get 30 times 2 minutes, that's an hour, except you lose 10 seconds between each frame.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You're only getting 27 or 26 thereabouts. So
Mhm.
it has to, I'm sure it has to do with the 120 megabyte files.
Yeah. Now, are you dithering with you got a lot of focal length. I don't know if you even bother to dither.
I don't, I used to, I normally would only dither 2 or 3 pixels, 4 pixels. So it's not much, just to make sure they don't line up exactly the same. So, but I don't on this one.
Mhm.
Anyway.
Well, I know we have, a similar problem at Rhodes, and I just always thought it was, the transmission cable between the camera and the computer, or the speed of the computer. But I don't know. But I know what you're saying, how it adds on. If you set up something that's supposed to take 4 hours and it's taken 15 seconds to download each image, it adds up.
Well, yeah, I've tried it both with the camera. The computer close by with a laptop versus my long distance setup, and it's no appreciable difference.
But you're
Thanks.
using an Ethernet cable, is that right?
Well, yes. It's actually it's a USB 3.0 converted to Ethernet, then back to the 3.0, 100 feet away. But it is using Ethernet cable. It's not going on my LAN or anything, but it's using. But even if I take the camera right next to the computer just to experiment, it's still that. And I guess it's just characteristics of the way the CMOS camera works. I can't find anything specifically it's a QHY, and I can't find anything on the QHY site. So I was looking for experience.
Well, you have my curiosity. I know that Zoe publishes this information for every one of their cameras. So I'm curious what they're doing. If you dig deep on their website, you can find a lot of stuff.
I've looked on the QHY for a long time, and I can't find anything. Maybe Joe will give me a clue.
Mhm.
So what size are your files, Brent? I mean, your images?
Hang on, I can tell you. They are about 32 meg.
Yeah, 32 and a half.
Is that right?
And
Yeah.
3 or 4 seconds. So maybe times 4, maybe that's ballparkish.
Yeah, and that's just an estimation. Again, I really haven't given it a second thought, and I don't know that I've noticed it because usually my dither takes I have it settling for about 5 to 8 seconds during that period anyway. So I think I've got a lot more wiggle room just based on how I have my dither settings.
All right, that was my couple points on CMOS cameras.
So does this mean you got a new CMOS color camera?
Oh, yeah, I got the, I bought 2 at the same time. I bought that S-Big Illumina AC 4040. And almost, I mean, it's a great camera, but it really stretches the limit on the mount. How much can I manage in terms of weight? And I had to do a lot of counterbalancing on the filler wheel because the filler wheel's humongous. And then so I just said, well, let me try one that's totally symmetrical. So that's why I got the QHY 600 color, and it's worked beautifully with the mount. And it's probably because 2 things: one, it is symmetrical, but it's also way lighter. So that's but you were looking at getting one, as I recall.
Yes, we're still looking. We decided to spend the end of year money on the Evoscope.
The Evoscope.
Yeah, because we did get our S-Big camera back from repair, and so it's all put back together, and the student is having a ball this summer.
Oh, great. So Bill took care of you. Huh?
He did.
So Meryl, can you go through what you do in SharpCap to check out that camera? Just kind of give us a brief summary.
Well, I mean, yeah, you kind of do it once. I'll send you. I'll put on Slack channel the actual YouTube video. But basically, after you get it installed, you do on the tools. Let me see if I can find it here. Once you have your camera connected, if you click on tools and then you go to sensor analysis, and it's really straightforward. Your white source again is what the person in the video used was the iPad, and so I duplicated that. Just took a white picture. I mean, actually, it was a Word document that was clear. I mean, nothing, no writing on it, and used it. Make sure it was dimmed enough, and it takes a long time to do the full analysis. And then you do the darks when you're done with the light part of it. She tells you to put the lens cap back on, and then once you got there, then it actually just creates the same. I mean, like you have your manual, you'll have the graphs of the analysis of your signal, and it shows you where the unit of gain is and everything. And then you use that. The other tool that you use is called Histogram, again, with your camera connected to it. And then you go through the process of just point it at the target that you want to do for the night. And it takes into account your background noise and what you want to do. And it does it all for you. It tells you what to set it at.
Sounds pretty neat.
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, it takes a little bit.
Yeah. Does it tell you to go outside and point it straight up at the sky at some point?
No,
Okay.
no,
How
it's
do-
I did
How
it
do you
all.
tie the sky in?
I'm sorry.
How do you tie the sky in to get your you're saying you can use it to help choose exposure and gain.
Well, once you get the analysis done, then you put your camera back on your telescope.
Okay.
And you connect your to sharp cap to it, and
I got it.
hit the histogram, and it literally has a icon of a brain. And you click
Yes.
on the brain, and it exposes the target. You aim at the target you're going to do for the night, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And it does the analysis and then tells you what the optimum is.
I like the thought of that.
It's always been a question to me, what's the right setting? And I've used Brent's guidance in the past, and this just takes to me the questions out of it, and it's worked certainly adequate for me.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
But it's download. It's free, and I think there's some features that you can unlock for a few dollars. But
Yeah, I think the polar alignment was you had to buy it to get that part of it.
is that? Oh, there
And you
go.
said, Meryl, you said one of the things that you're trying to find out on yours is what unity gain is for your camera.
Well, that's one of the outcomes of this
Okay.
sharp cap. It'll tell you.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious because I know with the ZWO ones, like it's actually built into the drivers as well. So I'd be curious how close it actually matches to what the software and the hardware is saying unity gain is.
Well, this was really pretty close. I mean, I think in the QHY, the numbering system they had, it was supposed to be 26, and it was like 28 or 30. So it was very, very close to
Okay.
where they had it. So was that Ann? Was that you putting that on the screen?
Yeah, I was just putting it up there for people to get the name.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
great.
Well, I will put the link of that YouTube video. It's only like a 9-minute video that kind of gives you the rundown how to do it. But best I know, it's for any CMOS camera, whether it's mono or color. So pretty simple process.
And I think I had seen a video, the guy that wrote the sharp cap, I guess he gave a presentation at a seminar, and it was trying to tell people how to figure out what the best exposure time was for their particular camera and sky conditions. But it sounds like he's gotten better with this automated setup.
Well, yeah, I think that was the basis for him. I think he had a group there that he was trying to sell it to, but he gave the in-depth explanation of how all that stuff worked, which once you assume that a CMOS camera works, then you can go ahead and just do the analysis, which takes some time, but it's mostly dwell time, just waiting.
Like when you pointed at a target, you already calibrated the camera, you already did the analysis of the camera,
You have to
and then
do-
you put it back on your scope and you pointed it at something to do. And now you're trying to find out what exposure and gain you're going to do. How long did that process take after that?
time. Once you
Okay.
got the analysis done, you put it. Let's assume like we all tried to get M10 last night, for example,
Mhm.
even though the weather didn't cooperate perfectly. You pointed at M10, and then it will go through the histogram analysis based on the curves that it created in the sensor analysis, and then then it just reads it out directly.
So it would probably take into account the moon and any light pollution in that region of the sky.
That's what it's for. It's specifically for your skies.
Okay. Wow.
And so I would, short of it, sure, there's, if you image with the moon, then it may vary from day to day. But if you are imaging without the moon, you do this once. And as long as your neighbors don't turn on spotlights or aim at you or something, you should be okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
But for, again, it's for CMOS cameras.
That's what everybody's buying now, Merrill.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's my experience, well, albeit limited, it's way more sensitive.
So you think the improvement in sensitivity beats out the increased noise over a CCD?
You know, I would have said it has less noise, just the experience I've had. Albeit limited, only about a month and a half, and out of that month and a half, I had cloudy skies most of it. But I think I don't see any indications anymore. It's probably less. I think
Wow.
it depends on where, at what point you set at the game.
But I guess you were with your previous camera, weren't you taking like 10 and 15-minute exposures? So you're thinking you don't need to go that long anymore with the CMOS?
Yeah, I can't.
You
You
can't
can't.
with the
Okay,
color.
Gotcha.
Well, but the biggest issue for me is the you'll saturate the stars. Anything
Oh, wow.
2 minutes is, to me, is as the outside. I probably should be doing less. In fact, I think it told me to do this. The problem is you don't, when you've got 120 megabytes per image, if you went 20 hours worth of data, it's a lot of images. And
Yeah.
and I hope that Steve's going to talk to us about the WBBP. And one of the things at the very end of it, you do the analysis of how much disk space do you need. Well, this last image I put up on the Slack channel, it said I needed 650 gigabytes free space. And so it really moves lots and lots of data around. So I ideally, I'd like to, if I go back to my old camera, the CCD STT 8300, yeah, I'll do 15-minute exposures. But and that's then you don't have a lot of, specifically the number of images you have is
Yeah.
less. So it's kind of a, I guess it's kind of a trade-off. You have less sensitive camera. So anyway.
Yeah, and Merrill and I discussed on his camera. He tried to bind it down to,
Yeah.
and it just didn't. It didn't work. He tried to bind it down. What were you trying to do?
I had a target. It was two interacting galaxy NGC 4568 or something like that, and I spent weeks and weeks and weeks gathering data on bin 2x2.
Yeah, 2x2. Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
image, but you can't debayer them.
Yeah.
30 hours worth of images, and I even got to the place where I was so frustrated not knowing what to do here. I wrote Adam Block, and I'd asked Steve. You apparently had experience with talking to Adam, and
Right.
so I was getting ready to. He was getting ready to answer my question that evening, and I'd written him, said, "Don't bother, Steve. Steve got me to the right answer. You can't bin those color cameras 2x2. You can't bin them at all.
Mhm. That'd be 1 by 1.
At least the QHY. I don't know about the other ones, but the QHYs you can't.
Mhm.
So you got to go full frame, or you can go part frame, and maybe that's the answer. You have a half frame that's centered over your target. Depends how big the target is, of course.
Okay, I guess I have not heard of a half frame. Is that something specific that particular camera can do?
No, actually, what I have, I used my overall master control as a CCD commander, and when you tell it to do the take images, it gives you the options of full frame, half frame, and quarter frame.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, you have to, the downside, if you will, you have to do your calibration frames the same size. So if you had a nice set of full frame flats, for example, you'll have to go back and get flats for the half frames, but it's not a big deal. It's just another set in your library for flats.
Gotcha.
But I did try that. Did anybody have any luck with M10 last night on with the Comet?
Clouds here.
One of our members from Dallas, Texas, posted a great photo on the Facebook page.
Scott?
Yep.
Hey, yeah, that was me, and yeah, I guess the trade-off not having clouds is it's basically an inferno here in North Texas. But yeah, it was kind of fortunate. It was just up over the top of the Dallas Light Dome. You know, the elevation was just high enough, and yeah, wound up trying just different exposure lengths, you know, a bunch of like 30-second, and then a few fewer 60-second, and then some even fewer 2-minute. I'm messing around with the 2-minute exposures now, but yeah, what was up there was about 15 or so 60-second exposures.
So I'm sharing your image here.
Oh, great.
That looks familiar.
At what time was that?
This was about probably between 9:30 and 10 p.m. or so, between 9:30 and 10:30 or so.
Nice.
It's a great image.
That is.
Yes. you can
Well-
see
well
the
done.
tail on it. All right.
So what kind of camera did you use? Or maybe you said that and I missed it.
No, I didn't actually. I just fairly recently, maybe a few weeks ago, got a ASI 533 MC Pro. The nice square image you'll probably notice there. And so use that, and then a Astrotech AT60, just a little 60 millimeter f6 for my scope.
Okay. Nice.
And processed in apologies for the blasphemy here, I know, but I use AstroPixel processor to do my processing, and actually did 2 integrations, one with the Comet centered, and then use StarNet to remove the stars from that. That's why I kept my total exposure time only about 15 minutes or so. The stars didn't stretch out enough that StarNet was still able to pretty much remove all of them. And then did another integration for the stars, and then just put those 2 layers together in Photoshop. So I cheated.
Great.
No cheating. I mean, it's good. Well, good job.
Thank you, appreciate it.
It was just hazy
Yeah,
enough.
it's very good.
I can see the stars in the image, but not anything else.
Yeah, I could see a little fuzz around the core. That was about it. So I thought, well, you know, it was pretty hazy and murky here, like I said in my post, and then with all the light pollution, it's like, well, who knows what's going to happen, but we'll give it a try, and if nothing else, it's more practice with the new camera.
Good job.
Well, I see we've got some new people here this time around. Does anyone have a burning question about image processing? We're kind of focusing on color imaging tonight.
I don't have a question, but I posted on the Slack group. I have officially installed PixInsight today.
I saw that.
So I am diving in to try to figure out what the heck I'm looking at.
Good luck.
It's not the most intuitive software on the planet, I'll tell you that right now. But it's powerful.
It is definitely powerful.
Lots of tutorials out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I found the first one I watched was just like how to move windows around and how to change the layout just to kind of get a feel for the different things. And that was pretty helpful.
Yeah. Screen transfer function, Brent. That's the first thing you need to open.
Control A, Control A.
That baby right there. That's everything. You're checking all your work with that first.
Control A, I haven't heard that one. So, all right, a good shortcut, huh?
I think I learned that in one of the videos, and that is a helpful shortcut.
All right.
All right. Well, Ann, do you want me to talk about weighted batch pre-processing?
Yeah, if there are no other questions about color imaging, does anyone like use a DSLR with their telescope? That's the only color imaging I've done. And
I
it's
do quite
pretty,
a bit.
pretty
I like it.
painful. I
No,
find
I like the DSLR.
mine is not easy to focus. It's at a different focus than when I have the eyepiece in, and it's hard to tell when the camera's focused and all that.
Yeah, I wind up jumping back to a star to get a good focus in a close range, and then come back to the object I'm actually trying to shoot.
Oh,
As long
okay.
as you're not too far off, it won't lose focus, but if you're too far, it might, the angle change may hurt you.
Well, I guess I would love to see how this weighted batch processing works. So Steve, if you want to help Brent get started, that would be great.
Well, this is a philosophy. Meryl and I have talked about this. Meryl likes to do the processes individually, one at a time. But what this does is it combines all of the major pre-process and the initial post-process together in one script. So you can grab 3 or 4 nights worth of data, and it goes into the script, and you can see how the script tells you exactly what it's going to do and how everything is going to calibrate, how they're going to register, how they're going to integrate every frame. So it's really powerful. And Adam Block is all over this, along with some programmer he always mentions in his videos. He's literally doing 2 major updates per month, is what I've been noticing on, just adding feature after feature after feature. And I think he does this because he has so much data that he's doing this by necessity. I mean, he's always dealing with data. But let me share the screen.
So I know there have been times when it didn't work well at all, maybe a year or 2 ago. And now it had reached the point the last time I used it where I couldn't use it to make my flats very well. I would just do that in a separate step because it somehow had trouble recognizing the darks that went with the flats. But I'm hoping now that that's fixed in a recent version.
Yeah, I haven't seen, to me, it was a worthless script 2 years ago.
Yes.
It just did a really bad job. Last year, they started moving it in the right direction. And now they're trying to make it so easy now that you don't even, it's at the point where you don't even have to understand PixInsight. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. I'm not saying this is a good thing because, we always talk about this, I just mentioned his name, Adam Block, and he'll literally spend 5 videos just talking about cosmetic correction, which is something I'm going to just spend 2 seconds on when I do. So he says, we're going to do the automatic stuff in the script, but in the script, he gives you the ability to move outside of the automatic if you're having problems. Choose the way you're going to weight the images. Choose the way you can choose the way you're going to do the rejection algorithms. You can choose all these things. So without further ado, let me share screen.
Now, have you been looking at his YouTube videos or the subscription?
Yeah, I subscribe to it. That's $80 well spent on his. It's a one-time hit for his fundamentals.
Okay.
And he puts a couple videos up a week. So when you join it, you're in for life. And he's constantly. Let's just go there. There's his WBP videos that he's been doing, and he just did an update on 7.1. So he's just all over this thing, and he's communicating. But now let's go find PixInsight. I want to show this first, just to let Meryl and I have been arguing over whether or not you should use filters with color cameras and all.
It's not an argument.
A pleasant discussion. And this, I just want to show, this is M27. Both these are 5-minute exposures. The moon was very bright this night, and the moon was very close to the target. And if you can see here on the left, do you see my arrow when I'm?
Yes.
Okay. Good. That is no filter. And here at the right, and now this is not debate or anything, this is just the raw file. That is the L-enhanced filter that Brent was just talking about. So it's kind of a night and day difference. The type of data you can collect on your camera in that time frame.
Yeah, I don't think there's an argument in terms
Yeah.
of, if I wanted to filters, I can go put my other camera back on. But
Yeah, that's right.
you're trying to convince me to make changes to the color camera.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about in PixInsight is fits headers, because the way this process works, the script is it takes information from your headers. So hopefully if you're using ASI Air, it puts all the information you need in the header. And I'm sure the other software does too, but you need it, like if it gives you exposure times and even where it is, the location of where the scope is pointing and what filters it's being used. This information is taken by the script to automate this process. And let me just open up the script. This is weighted batch processing script. And as you can see, it used to be you had to individually choose how you move darks around. You would have to go down here and load them all individually. You'd have to do your biases if you're doing them darks, flats, lights. But now you can put things in directories and name that directory something smart, and you can do just amazing automation. So I'm going to open up a session, and in this folder I have, it simply has lights, flats, and flat darks. That's the only thing in the folder. So all I did, I just opened up a folder that had a lot of data in it. And I'm over here. Let me move this down because I can't see. You can see I have some darks in there. There's the flats. There's the lights. And in this calibration, it lets you know if you have any problems. And right here, I have a problem. Now, because of the screen, I can't see so good. And you can click on it. It says the light frame exposure differs from the master dark exposure. So it's letting you know that I forgot to load my darks. So I'm going to go do that right now. I'm choosing directory. Now I got a library of darks. These were 300 seconds. I'm going to open that. As you can see, a lot of my problems went away because there's a dark associated with them. And if you click on, like say a flat, this tells you that this flat will be calibrated by these darks. And how does it know that? Well, it took out of your fits header the exposure times. And since these exposure times are equal, it knows, okay, these darks are going to be calibrated with that flat. So there's no thinking. It's all done and ready to go. Now I do have a problem with light still. And the problem is that if you're using ASI Air, they give you these nasty little JPEG previews. So when I drug it over to that directory, these showed up. So I'm going to get rid of these. And you can click on it, remove the selected item.
Hey, Steve, while you're doing that, I was looking at this earlier. Does this take into account like multi-night situations?
Yes. So the way you would do that, unfortunately, those aren't in headers. So they give you this powerful feature called keywords. And the beauty of it is you don't have to rename every file. If you have a folder and you put a different session on it, like call it session 1, session 2, or session, whatever date it is, you can use that session keyword so that, you would calibrate your, you do the proper calibration that for the calibration frames you use that day. It's really powerful. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to kill some of these filters. Okay, so look, first it shows you it's the bind. If we had 2x2 binding, they'd show up as a different tab. So it would calibrate data differently. This is just filters. In the past, ASI Air didn't let you name filters. So filter 1 for me was just no filter. Filter 2 was the L enhance. So your filter name would show up right here if it's in the fits header. So everything is nicely organized for you. I'm going to remove that. Remove this. Remove that. Those are just test captures, so I'm not using them. And then I got to move this. Yeah. So I'm on the lights tab now. So you can look at your darks, and you can do different integrations and different thresholds. And if you want to know how to do that, you don't ask me, you ask Merrill. But you can open these up, and you have all the settings that are in the individual processes. And they're great. Like you can mouse over and it tells you what these things are about. So, and this is just for darks, and it tells you how, why you would choose generalized, extreme, studentized, deviate versus, Windsor. So that is really powerful part of the software. Here are my flats. I'm going to click on the lights. Now, here's where they just started doing this a few months ago. You can actually do post-processing now with a script. So you have subweight weighting, and you can choose whatever you want. Image integration, you can get a hold of those processes. And this is brand new. Like last month, this didn't exist. It's called interactive mode. By choosing this, and Merrill will be interested in this, the processes will go through and crunch everything until it gets to this point, and then it stops, and then it tells you, we think you should choose this frame, but it allows you to play around with it in real time, if that's the best frame for normalization, to choose. And then image integration.
Try
So
this.
these go ahead.
Well, I said when I did try that, it didn't work because it failed, but it didn't have that option. So it's been long enough ago that you didn't get the interacting mode. It just did not do the local normalization.
Right. And now it does, and it's very powerful. Matter of fact, the reason why, one of the things, so now you can do PFR SNR, right? PSF SNR right here, Merrill. And before you had to do that as a manual step. Probably 3 months ago you had to do that.
Yeah, it's been a while since I tried this.
And then now, so we went through the darks, the flats, and how the lights, and then the calibration. So this makes sure you don't screw up. That's what this is about. So I just clicked on the dark, right? And it tells you, yeah, it's going to calibrate with this. See how this highlighted and got bold? Now I'm going to choose these darks that were just two. These are the 300-second exposures, and this is the 300-second. I'm going to choose these sets of darks, which were, flat darks, and it's 2.5 seconds, and it corresponds with the flats. So see how this is not even highlighted, because you don't want it to be you want it to calibrate the flat. You want those darks to be calibrated with these flats, and that's exactly what's happening. So you know exactly what's going to, it just tells you everything. And then you can click on the lights, and you can show a calibration diagram, and it just tells you it's going to take the lights, it's going to subtract the master dark of the same exposure, and then the flat is going to divide the flat and make the calibrated light. But let's look at what Brent's talking about. What if we have more than one day? So let me add some data. I'm gonna go back to directory. And okay, so that was session 1. And when the script came out, I just started using this term session, and I put it in the folder. So when I grab, and these folders have subfolders of flats and flat darks. So because I did that, everything in this folder and all the subfolders are going to be part of this session 2. And I'm going to open this up. And then I'm going to go back and look at the lights. And look, we have a new these are those JPEGs. Okay, so I have all this data. Now, in the past, this would all be calibrated together, which you don't want to do. So now I get to where's that? You go over to calibration. And I have this new thing called keyword grouping. I'm just going to type. Remember, I named the folder sessions. Let's see. I'm going to add it. Now I'm going to go back to these lights, and see we have a new organization, session 1 and session 2. Then I can go to the calibration, and the flats for this day will be calibrated with that. And right here, session 1. You click here, session 2, and they'll be calibrated with that. So as long as you Brent, as long as you name your items to where you could split them out, there's like, for example, if you're working on a pier and you have the east and west side, you could add those keywords, and you can calibrate and do process with those differently.
So the key is in the directory naming. I wouldn't do that in the UI. Or I could just do it in the UI. It's probably just not, it's harder to do.
Right. You could name each individual file. But they just added this directory feature about 5 months ago, which okay. I really like.
Yeah, what I was trying to do was use the add options in the bottom when I was messing around with it earlier, and I would add lights and go select them. Then I'd go try to add them from the other directory, and I was like, I can't figure out how to separate them. That's what I don't want to do.
Right. Yeah. So I would just create a new directory with a session name.
Got it.
So you could also rename the fits file with a keyword, add a keyword to the fits file if you want to go that route.
Yeah, but I don't
just-
think I would do that because we're talking about quite, I mean, there's a script to do that.
Okay.
But
okay.
they made it real easy just
Yeah,
to do
it
it with the
does.
directory name. So I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
And then let's see. And then they had just literally probably 4 months ago, they added this post calibration tab, which is very interesting. So right now, this is one shot color. And Meryl and I were talking about how one of the disadvantages of one shot color is when you're, especially when you're at high focal lengths and your stars are at the edge, you have these little halos on both sides that are different. You know, it might be green on one side and red on the other, or blue. And what this does, you can tell it to separate your RGBs, and watch what happens here. And again, this tab's telling you what's going to happen. So we were going to have 50 frames that were going to be integrated. And now, because I'm separating it, it's going to give you a 50 red, green, and blue, and it'll integrate those and get rid of those chromatic aberrations and all that, and you'll have much cleaner stars, even if you shoot in one shot color.
Right.
So it's a very powerful new feature that I think it's literally 2 or 3 months old. And one thing I forgot to do is show you that, because this is not very intuitive, is I'm gonna exit this. When you exit, you can come back. But I wanted to do a process, and it's a calibration process called Cosmetic Correction. I can't get a hold of it because of this Zoom software. So that's fine. Try again. And what I want to do is get rid of some hot pixels, because when you're registering your data, if you have hot pixels, it thinks they're stars and it can just throw things off. So Adam Block highly recommend, especially if you're using one shot color, that one of your processes you do for WBPP is cosmetic correction. And all you have to do is drag the instance, which is the triangle, to your desktop. I'll rename it to CC for cosmetic correction. And when I go back to the script, I'll be able to click on my lights and actually add that instance I just created on the desktop. So this CC wouldn't be available unless I created that instance. And it's really important that Adam Block says he even cosmetically corrects mono cameras because there's always hot pixels even on those, but this is particularly important for color. And you would do it to both sessions. And then when you're done with that, you do a diagnostic. And it warns you that I didn't output a directory. This thing won't run if you don't choose a directory that you want to save it to. And everything else here is just telling you, oh, you better have for this data. How much were you talking about, Meryl? Because this is a lot less.
Yeah, 650 gigabytes.
Okay.
That's one of the drivers. This thing will consume when on mine, it'll consume my computer for a day.
Yeah, okay.
Hours running at 100% capacity.
Well, when I run this script, and I'm not gonna run it, but I'm gonna show you the results of it. It told me it would take 5 hours to complete this, and it did it in under an hour. So their estimator is not very good. Maybe it's okay on the PC. I run this thing off of Apple's custom silicon, and maybe they just haven't figured out how to do all that. But so all you would do is you choose your output directory and hit run. And then it would go through this long process. Let me get this back up. There's a PDF file. And Merrill, it stops. It stops when it gets to you choosing. So you got to be there. You got to be present toward the end of the process.
That's good.
Yeah, and see how you get to choose. First of all, it says I would go with this frame here. So, and I'm zoomed in. That's why it's blurry, you know. But you get to look at the frames, and it shows up here, and you get to play with growth factors and all of that. Then you hit select, and then it continues on. And at least I find that normalization is one of the longest processes. Is that true for you, Merrill?
Yes. When I do it individually, yes.
Yeah, that's just a cruncher. So let me just show you what happens.
And
Go ahead.
is the photo you're just showing, was it without the filter, or was that?
It had that L enhanced filter.
That had the L enhanced. Okay.
On a full moon night, so we can't expect great results. But so it gives you a log, so it tells you, like, if you're curious. And I'm going to talk to Merrill offline about this, because it rejected something I didn't want it to reject. And I'll show you in a second. But so it cosmetically corrected and gave you all these files. And then it debayed and gave you all these files. These are all generated by the script.
Which debayer method did you use?
On this one, I did not use SuperPixel. I'm going to run this data through again as SuperPixel to do a comparison. It's VNR, I think it's called. Is it, or actually, let's see if I can.
VGN.
Yeah, VGN is what I did on this, because that's what everybody used to do. It used to be the thing. And so, but now SuperPixel will, my understanding is, will take quite, and Merrill, you correct me if I'm wrong, this is your area. It cuts your file size in half, I believe.
2/3 or so, yeah, to a half, 2/3, I would say.
Yeah, but if you, I'm told, and I'm going to do the analysis this weekend, that the noise is significantly less. Is that true?
Well, here's my problem, and Adam covers it in one of his videos, that when you do the VGN, they won't register, and I can never get him to register. Well, I wasn't the only one that had the problem. He covered it on one of his, I don't remember which was Horizons or one of the videos he had. He said, if that's the case, go to the SuperPixel. So, because I mean, I spent a lot of time. I said, why isn't it? I got them all registered, at least I thought. And so I reviewed that video, and sure enough, you can actually look at the Process Explorer, and you can see how much movement your images are from frame to frame. If you don't get much movement, it's not really registering.
Mm-hmm.
He said, in this case, you go to SuperPixel. It's just a different methodology of combining the RGB or whatever. Yeah, I guess there's two greens, at least on my camera.
Well, I hear it's the preferred method now, and one of the complaints I hear about it is your file size gets reduced. But when you're in this type of data and it's 16-bit, you can Photoshop and PixInsight gives you great algorithms to scale it up, and I find I can scale these items. So that's what I'm going to test. I'm going to do a SuperPixel, and with the smaller sizes, I'm going to scale it up to, what VNG did, and just compare the two.
Why would you want to do that? I'm just curious.
I'm just curious. So first of all, I'd rather work with the smaller file sizes if I can get by with it. Yeah. And if it takes the noise out like I hear it does, it might be a no-brainer.
Yeah, I just haven't seen much noise on one or the other.
Right.
But you
Now,
can-
does this do the drizzling also?
Yes,
Yeah.
on my, I always drizzle because you know, you don't want to drizzle if your focal length is really big, and you know, because and your stars are getting a little bit more too much signal. But for every scope that I have, I will drizzle every time because I've already did. And Meryl, I remember you showing some comparisons in one of these meetings. There's significant decrease in noise.
Yeah, well, but they also make the files really large.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another side. So you get a huge number of images that you're messing with that get to be very, very large. But there is advantages to drizzling, and particularly when undersampled. Like if you have you look at the stars, are just a few pixels.
Mhm.
So you get big, you know, the right saturation on the stars. You know, it's not necessary. I don't do it because of the size. They're just huge.
Yeah, I feel comfortable logging what I did and just throwing all that stuff away when I'm done processing. Because you don't need it. Because you can always get back there with your raw data. So
What do you mean logging?
I put in the folder that, you know, I use these processes to create to create the drizzle. I use drizzle data. And, you know, every process I use, I just put in a text file and I throw it in the folder so that I can get back to it.
When
And
you
I don't
do the integration, you've got to have that data put into the integration.
Right.
That's not- okay. So
Yeah, but I can throw all that away
you
because I
can
can
throw all that
reprocess.
away after you're done. Yes.
Yeah, exactly right. So you do have the disadvantage of
Well, but the actual image itself changes size.
Yes.
It's substantially larger.
it is. It is. And this is so I ran the process last night, and this is what it did. This is 2 nights worth of data. It's only about 3 hours.
I think
And-
that's very, very beautiful.
Yeah, and since Brent's on here, I was going to show him something about screen transfer. Like this is going to be your go-to tool, Brent. You go to processes. It's an intensity transformation, and it's the bottom one. And what you do is you can reset it. And this is actually the image. This is what happened after it was all integrated, and this is the final image. And then you get to choose this, we call it nuking it because of the icon. And you have 2 ways to nuke it. I'm going to nuke it. So this is what comes out raw. It has a green cast. But if you see how everything, basically what the algorithm does, it lines up your red, green, and blue. So if you choose the chain, it does a better color approximation. And you see how the reds are to the left and the greens went to the right, and you have different values. I'm zooming in. So that's a good, like when you're looking at, especially from your old color camera, this is a great, so linking and unlinking is a good way to look at screen transfer. And this is pretty accurate colors. Matter of fact, there's this process called, it's a color calibration process. There it is. Called Photometric color calibration. And I was talking about the FITS headers before we even started. And luckily ASI Air, and I bet Commander does this as well, it puts it in the FITS header. The right ascension, the declination, the focal length that was used, and the pixel size. So watch, I'm going to click acquire from image. and see how it fills in all that information. And then you can take this process, which takes a while because it's done on the internet. And I tried to do it this morning and they would tell me I didn't have enough stars and I was going nuts trying to figure this out. So then I just tried to ping the server in France and also in, let's see, over in Harvard, Cambridge, where they store the color data where it kind of automatically, it color corrects to these databases. And the server was down, so that's why it didn't work. So I tried it about 2 hours later and it worked. And I was just kind of impressed with
Oh, I've had a lot of trouble, the same problem, but I never thought that the server might be down.
yeah, and the reason why the person who programmed these scripts didn't do that. I mean, I might volunteer to whoever does that script to just do initial, just ping that server, see if it's there before we begin this process.
Because it does take a while and then you get an error and you have no idea. And it seemed like for a while I couldn't color calibrate anything. And then one day it worked just fine.
Yeah. And I find if you choose the one in France, it's better. I always used to choose the one at Harvard, but that one, they're down a lot. Okay. So what I did is I color corrected this to using that process. And it is not, it's just a testament to these cameras. It is not too far off, you know? This is, I mean, just spending hardly any time and just using screen transfer function and you just saw me do it. The color, I mean, this background is just a little, there's a lot more red in the black here, but it's really, it didn't do a major shift. And
so screen transfer function. So that's going to be my equivalent of levels and curves from Photoshop. Is that a fair
yes.
comp?
Except
Yeah,
this is not permanent. The screen transfer is not permanent.
Yeah, still
Well,
linear.
it can be like you can play around with screen transfer, and this is what I mean. This software is not intuitive at all. Anybody? So look at some of these other intensity transforms. You could you got histogram, you got some curve transformations. So you can drag this to there and then drag that to there and make it permanent. So
We're actually transforming it with the nonlinear algorithms.
I mean, it kind of drives you nuts. But I use this so much that I don't even pull this out. I added. I'm going to get it. So here's something that's very linear, and this is the raw image right here. I added the buttons here. So I here's one click, and that is we call it super nuking. If you want to, just and then you go back.
Yeah, Control A is the equivalent of a nuke.
There you go. Okay. So that is really an important one. And also, and with your color camera, Brent, you're those of us in color, since this is color day. It is a color. It is a really it's a space. Your debayer. So here's something that hadn't been debated over here. Now, ASI Air puts in the header it's a RGGB, so auto will work on anything that comes out of ASI Air. But if it doesn't, you got to choose what it is if auto doesn't work. And there's Mary and I were just talking about. You got bilinear, VNG, and super pixel. Excuse me. And you just drag it onto the image that you're, and this is not like a process. This is you just kind of playing around, seeing what's going on with your color image. And there it is. And then you can I nuke it with this button right here. Boom. And it remembers the last thing you did with the screen transfer process. So if I turn that off, this button. So that this is where it doesn't try to balance the color out. It balances the channels out. So technically, this is what's coming off the camera. And then I did that. What is that process called? I hate the names of these things. Then I do the photometric color calibration, and it neutralizes the background and color corrects. And Meryl, would you do that early in the process or late?
You know, as soon as I get them integrated, well, with the super pixel and then the individual RGB channels, then I do the channel combination.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get the channel combination, that's when you do the color calibration.
Right. Okay. So you do it pretty early,
Yeah.
and right when post processing begins. Yeah. Okay.
So after the channels are combined,
Mhm.
then you get the color calibration right. Then you go from there.
Right. So this one was done with VNG, and this was done with SuperPixel, and they're both at actual size. So you see the image scaled way down, but I have a feeling that I'm going to like it a lot better.
But you're saying the bigger one that's the actual size?
Yeah. So this button here on PixInsight,
Okay.
That's it's 100%
Yes.
view.
That one there is too.
What's that?
The one on the right. I mean, the big
Yeah.
one. Have you looked at the file size in the directory just to see the difference?
No. How big will this be?
You gotta save it. You gotta save it. I don't mean to cause you grief. You gotta save the
Oh.
pro.
Yeah, I'm going to save this file real quick.
Okay.
And let's see, that's good.
You got sharp kept images.
Yeah. Let's see here. Where did I put it? I might need to resave because I forget where I put it. I put it in cameras and move out to astrophotography. So that's 49 megabytes.
Yep, compared to the other one.
And let's go to that camera, which is the 071, and let's look at a light, any light.
Very. No, I'm not. You got really. You need to look at a DeBayer. Well, no, that's not true. Yeah, you got to compare DeBayer to DeBayer.
Yeah.
Can't do a raw to a DeBayer.
Yeah. I'll do that, and I'll do that offline.
It'll give you a perspective how much reduction in size.
Mhm.
My memory is about 50-60% of the original. The original DeBayer.
Mhm.
But does it make it, I guess it makes it, I know it makes it smaller. Does it make it sharper or anything doing that, or make it clearer?
A lot of, well, anytime you reduce something, a lot of noise is reduced. But Adam Block swears by it. He says that, and he's not a one-shot color guy, but a lot of people like me will go to him and say, help. And
Right.
so he's been playing around with this data quite a bit. And on these, I've watched every one of his WBP videos. He's got like 12 now. And to me, everybody who's interested in this hobby needs to watch number 2 and 3 of the WPP script, which is free on YouTube. He posts those on YouTube, And he doesn't even open up PixInsight with those 2 videos. He just goes through, okay, this is calibration. And he just goes through it and spends about 2 hours. And it was an eye opener for me. He just explains the importance of it and how they all relate and pitfalls and problems you run into. But does anybody have any questions?
So
I just had a comment that you had mentioned, these using keywords in the WBPP,
Yeah.
using keywords, and you'd said something about, whether the pier was east or west. And I
Right.
think if you have that data in the FITS header, I have found that PixInsight automatically adjusts for that. You don't have to separate your data by east or west.
It would, and like I guarantee you that like what is it you use to process? To capture Meryl?
Maxim. Oh, sorry.
yes, me.
CC, yeah, is it CCD Commander? Is that what you use?
That's the shell program that controls it. It's a Maxim DL.
Oh, Maxim.
Same as
Yeah,
that.
so I'd be very surprised if Maxim DL didn't put that in the FITS header.
Everything's very, very similar to what you showed there on the
Right.
screen.
But the
Right.
beauty of it is if say they don't, say they don't put something in there, say there's this, you want to add some weird filter or something, you can just add that as a keyword and play with it on those last 2 tabs I was showing you, the calibration and the post process.
Yeah, that seemed really helpful.
And-
I'm gonna download the latest version here tomorrow. But my other question was, I'm thinking about getting a new computer for home. And I've read what PixInsight recommends, and I can't afford that. But I'm looking at something with like an i7 processor. Do you think that would be suitable?
That's what mine is. Mine's an i7 7700.
Okay, that's good news.
Well, is it like there's 2 major processes competing in Windows, and one is Intel and the other is I forget.
AMD or
Yeah, but the Intel, our work computers, the Intel processors are superior.
yes, that's
So I would definitely 7 cores should be plenty. And of course, your processor speed is a big deal too. How fast?
it's 4.5 gigahertz is what I use, and this is a couple years old.
Right.
But it's quite fast, except when you manipulating 600 gigabytes. And then it
Right.
slows. It slows it. I showed you, Steve, when I started executing how on the task manager, the process utilization was 100. So it just literally, you can't do anything else.
That's right. I mean,
Walk
that's true.
away.
That's just welcome to PixInsight. When this process is going on, that I just did this batch process, I wanted to look at some files, and nope, it would not let me do it. So, it takes over your computer. It took over my computer a couple hours. Actually, maybe only an hour. It said it was going to take 5 hours. It was fast. It was a lot faster than that. But this Apple Silicon, they're only in the 2nd generation now. But the beauty of PixInsight is they're compiling to Windows, Mac, Intel, and then Mac. They're doing a special one for Mac M1, or M1 and M2, and they're doing if you're using Chrome computers, they do it for that as well. So every time they do a launch, it's on every platform, and it's one thing I like about it.
And just for curiosity, what does PixInsight recommend now?
Let's see, I had just sent it to our IT guy. They recommend the minimum reasonable processor, AMD Ryzen or Ryzen Threadripper CPU, or an Intel Core i9, 10, 11, or Xenon.
Oh my, wow.
You
Yeah, I
should have zero problems if you can get one of.
Right, I can't afford any of those, but I'm looking at something with an
So
internal
they do have an
i7.
AMD. They have an AMD. That's the one I was trying to think of. Does they have an AMD they actually recommend? Which one is that?
AMD Ryzen or Ryzen Threadripper.
Okay. Wow.
But an i9, wow.
Yeah, and their recommended processor is the AMD Ryzen Threadripper or the Ryzen 9 5900.
Interesting.
So I'm looking at a Surface Pro with an i7 processor, and I'm hoping, well, I know it's going to be better than what I have, but I'd like to be able to do more PixInsight. I just can't because my computer doesn't handle it too well.
Yeah.
They recommend the minimum recommended RAM 64 gigabytes.
Well,
Wow.
I agree with that. I agree with that. You really need memory. To me, is vital
Yeah, yeah.
for processing, and especially if you're in Photoshop. Things Photoshop will go out to virtual and slow you way down. And we frequently at work work with 2 gigabyte files or more. So I won't have a machine. If I get a computer, I max out memory. To me, that could even be more important than the processor for something like this. I'm trying to see where you got that information.
That's what I'd like to know that.
When
I got it from the PixInsight website. I just,
I'm at their FAQ right now trying to.
it was, I didn't have to dig that deep, I don't think.
Okay.
It might have been right on their main page, or maybe.
I
was
did
it?
see something, I guess, when you had the other screen up. I thought it said performance on one of the, or it might have been one that Ann had up at first.
No, I just cut and paste and put it in an email.
Okay.
It seemed like their minimum reasonable recommendations were a lot.
It'll probably be here. No.
No, system requirements. Click on that, maybe.
Did you find it?
Yeah, system requirements is where.
If you go up from where your arrow is, I guess the 5.1,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
right there. When you
highlighted.
look
there it
down
is.
in the wording, yeah.
That's where I found it.
Here they are.
Yeah, I like how they put it, minimum reasonable processor.
That is.
Yeah.
Well, Surfaces, they have 7 cores now, so
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at. So
I would heavy it up. I would definitely, and I'd put as much RAM in there as you can. And I know it's expensive. I put my own RAM in when I can, because the manufacturer they charge so much, and they just pop in. It's easy to install.
oh, well, then I could add more RAM because I'm looking at 16 is what it will come with. And
Yeah, so I buy third-party RAM all the time. But I don't know if Surface lets you go in there and do that. It just depends on the computer. So I don't know if there's like a, on all the computers I have, there's that you unscrew a panel in the back and you have access to it.
I have a Surface, and I don't think it's quite an operation to open that thing up.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we probably can't do that.
Yeah, it's got to come from them, but I think it'd be best off getting a desktop if you want to do heavy processing like this, because I think that Surface is going to choke on these size files.
yeah, it's a tough call because I need to use the computer for, for work and other things, not just PixInsight. If it was just a dedicated machine, then yeah, it would be a big tower.
Well, you probably, do you have a monitor?
Oh yeah, we have plenty of
'Cause
monitors.
You really need with PixInsight, you really need a big monitor.
Oh yeah, they even have a recommendation for that. Somewhere
Yeah.
down there, they recommend, I'm running 2 big monitors right now. So I
Oh, and
forgot.
actually, PixInsight actually has in one of
Put-
the
27 inch.
Okay. One of the pull down menus, you can test your computer against others that have used it, like a performance grade for your computer
Huh.
up at the top. Let's see,
Where-
think it
where-
was under resources, if I remember right. Let's see.
Well, I have the Mac version, so it might not have it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I got mine up. So tell me again. Under resources?
It might be under resources. He did.
I'm going to have to open my version and see where it is.
That would be an obvious place to put it.
But mine was real low. I have an i7 processor from, I think it's 9 years ago is what mine is.
Yeah.
Shoot. And it's been a while since I've tried it.
Yeah.
There was a utilities under your script. Yeah, utility, see if it's under there.
Oh, okay. It's under resources, community, and then PixInsight benchmark.
Okay.
I wonder how.
And I think it goes through maybe an example file or.
Oh, wow. Well, you see why they recommend this?
Yeah.
It does a good job.
I think when I did mine, it was like, some of those are 20,000 and 13,000. I think mine was like 1900 or something like that.
Mhm.
But
Well, we've reached the 90-minute mark. Are there any other burning questions before we say goodnight and wait till next time?
I had one other question. When you're talking about adding the meridian flip to the file information, or doesn't PixInsight automatically know that that you flipped
Yes.
and it does it on its own? Okay.
It knows if that's in the header file.
Are you talking in terms of registration?
Right.
It knows.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never had to tell it, but I know that it is in our header file. There's
Right.
an E or a W, so it knows.
The only reason why I brought that up in the script context is some people like to calibrate differently on both sides of that meridian line sometimes. Just depends on.
Okay.
I know that Adam Block does.
Why?
So
I
if
don't know.
you're-
I don't know why, but he says I do different things depending. He says it's different sky. He uses that strong terminology. And I don't know why he would. It's the same sky, but it's upside down, I guess.
Well, it depends. If you have a rotator, it's exactly the same sky.
Yeah, but he was only doing the context of a German equatorial mount.
Well, I mean, the rotator, you can rotate German equatorial.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe he's got a city on one side with a lot of light pollution, or I don't know.
That could
Okay.
be. Yeah.
So if you were taking photos with a DSLR camera, PixInsight wouldn't know that you flipped everything, from what
I still think
No,
I'm guessing.
No, it does detect it. Meryl's right. Meryl's
Okay.
it analyzes those stars.
the stars that
Okay.
Yeah, isn't there a choice during registration on rotation as well as when it's doing the star alignment?
never had. to do
Never had,
anything
okay, I
other-
might be thinking of Astro Image J
Okay.
instead.
Yeah, you really don't. Yeah, it just does it. Yeah, I've done it. When I shot that comet, I had a meridian flip, and I just threw all that light in there, and I didn't even have to think. It just did everything.
All right. Well, I think this is a wrap. This has been really useful. So thanks, Steve and Meryl and everyone who
Yes,
contributed.
thank you.
I would add this
Anybody got
before.
time? Well, I was gonna say, anybody got time that's not running off, that I can share my PixInsight and give me a quick yay or nay if I'm moving the right path?
Yeah, let me stop sharing. I can stick around. And do you mind if
Oh, no, it's fine. I can leave the Zoom room open as long as necessary.
and Meryl, you probably should stay too, because I might not be able to answer.
I'll stay for a little bit too.
Will it close out if you leave, Ann?
I can leave it open. I just leave it running. I do that with my classes all the time. I just tell the students you can stay as long as you need to.
So go ahead and share your screen, Brett.
All right. Let's share.
If I have problems, I go to Meryl first. And then when he can't solve it, I go to Adam Block.
So
Yeah, you go right to the top.
you're on
Yeah.
the spot.
Yeah.
Which I had a problem with some calibration frames. He says there's no problem with your calibration frames. Just go look for light leaks. So okay. So that's what I did.
All right. I'm gonna move that. There we go. All right. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, and
All
if you can't see the whole window that Brent is showing, if you go up to view options, there's a zoom ratio. If you say fit to window, sometimes Zoom stretches it and strange things happen. So if you can't see the whole window, try that zoom.
All right. So here's what I've done. I went ahead and took some of my files and stashed them in here. I've got 2 sessions of data. Inside of all of this, I've got darks, flats, lights broken down by my LRGB in each one of them. In my flats, I've got my dark flats, my regular flats. Everything's kind of broken down by color. So hypothetically, if I'm getting started, just very basic, I'm coming over here to script, batch processing, weighted batch pre-processing. This is the one you were using, Steve?
Yes.
So I'm coming here. I'm letting it open.
So you're using a monochrome camera with these filters?
I've got a mono camera, yeah, with just this one's my mono camera with LRGB. So I loaded.
And
I
Brent,
loaded.
if you hit reset, or unless you've already done all this.
Well, I did. That's what I just did. I imported the folder, and this is what it split out, and then I added the word session here. So I can let me just undo it.
Yeah. So go back to your lights and let's see, make sure that worked. The session worked. Oh, you want to clear? Yeah.
I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Okay, there. So I'm adding a directory.
Mm-hmm.
I want to choose that because it's got everything in it. I assume this doesn't mean anything of importance.
Yeah,
think it's just-
there might be arrows in there from time to time, but yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. I never even look at that. The first thing I do is look at lights. So click on your lights tab. And as you can see, it's doing a really good job. It's
yeah, that looks like what I expect it to have. Okay.
yeah. Now click the calibration tab. And then so let's just look at all those flats. Okay, so what is wrong with these flats? Wonder what's Go ahead and click on any one of those. So did you do did you do flat darks?
I did,
Yeah, it doesn't seem to
but
pick
they're
those up.
not categorized. So I use Sequence Generator Pro, and flat darks is not a call out. So everything's done as flat. So that's probably what's going on here.
So that's one of your issues. And the way to solve that is if you just, in every one of those files, you can call them flat darks in the file name, or you can add them as darks manually right now.
Can't you
So
get in
that's,
the custom feature?
Yeah. So, did you go to the weighted batch process and add them from there, the script, right? So see down there where it says darks.
yes.
So click on the darks, and now go find them.
Oh, and I think in the darks, the exposure tolerance, I think if you change that, that may put all your
Wait,
flat
why are
darks
they all
together.
empty? Maybe that's, am I missing the data? Is that what's, maybe I didn't copy them over. Are they in here? No, they should be there. Okay,
Okay,
so
you
in
can
this
literally-
scenario, so I have flats from one session that I need to use across both.
Right.
So that's okay. So I've got that problem. Okay, so but do I need to remove them? Let me close that. Do I need to remove them?
Yes, because
Over here
let's see. Go
first.
over to biases. I bet I put it in biases. Click the bias.
So here's some right here.
Oh, so they're in flats.
Yeah, Sequence Generator Pro will categorize everything as flats, and then I just rename it when I'm capturing if it's a flat or a dark flat.
Gotcha. So if you define all those from one to whatever, and at the upper right, there's a remove selected. There's yeah, that one there.
Okay.
Go, and they're gone.
Okay, so that's good. I don't remember why I'm missing data from one of the sessions.
And if you're missing darks, this is quite. You can do what is called. Meryl can talk about this probably better than I. There's something called optimized darks. So say you're in a hurry and you I only have I have 5-minute darks and I need 10 minutes. I can actually choose my 5-minute darks, and it actually does a process to make those 5-minute darks look like 10-minute darks.
Okay.
Very, very powerful. Have you ever done that, Meryl?
Yes, and it's that's the purpose of it. Gives you a little more flexibility.
Okay, looks like I had some garbage left over from Deep Sky Stacker, so I removed that as well.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something else too. Like say you've already done this calibration process, Brent, and you reload your data. PixInsight saved that those flat darks and those flats, and it's so as masters, and it knows. So say you drag all your masters, say you drag all your dark frames, for example, but you have a master dark frame that's already done in the same folder. Well, it takes that, it uses just that master dark frame. It's smart enough to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful.
Yeah,
Okay.
that saves a lot of time when you're doing this.
Oh my. When I integrate my darks, it's like 2 minutes on this machine. It's pretty fast.
All right, so if I want to add these back in manually, so I'm adding them in as darks.
You need to add them as darks because that's what you're doing. These are darks to calibrate your flats.
And PixInsight will look at the exposure time and it will match the darks for your flats with your flats.
Mm-hmm.
And the darks for your lights will be matched with your lights.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, flats.
But But I'm curious why you have a dark flat for each filter. Does this mean your camera doesn't have a shutter?
It's a flat dark. Each filter's got to have its own flats.
Right, but when I make my master flats, when I take a dark, it's the light's not going through the filter, so the shutter is just closed on the camera.
Oh yeah, for the darks, yes.
So you just need a dark at exposures that match your flat exposures. But maybe that's what you
Well,
that's
my
how you
flat, yeah,
that's how
they're
you
all
labeled
different
them.
values.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So when you say dark flat red, it really means it's at the same exposure as your red flat. Got it.
Yes. Okay, so I've added those in now. Is it gonna mess them up? Since I've got it split out by session?
Yeah, we might. That's a good question. Let's find out. Well, some of those went away.
So I think, okay, sorry, I picked some data and I forgot what I did. So I think I got flats without the darks on one session. And then what I did in my other one, I excluded the flats from one session. So I need to just, what I need to do is I need to remove, let me look here.
I'm going to stop our recording here because it's going to take an hour or so to save it to my hard drive. So.
Yeah,